It's foolish for us to go into anything without anticipating what the cost would be. Jesus says you're not going to start building something without first sitting and counting the cost. And so, even as he was leading his disciples, he warned them often about the cost associated with following him. He even warned, and he said, as somebody said, "Hey, can I come and be one of your disciples?" He says, "Well, just so you know," he said this right up front, that foxes have dens and birds have nests, so they all have some place to go, but the Son of Man, referring to himself, doesn't even have a place to lay his own head down. Jesus was always pointing out the cost associated with being his disciple. So we should do the same as we're thinking about discipling others. And the author gives us some great tips, if you will, some heads up to prepare for the cost of time, the cost of study, the cost of our prayer life, and the cost of love that is needed to be invested in this kind of relationship. And so the time that we're going to invest, he wisely points out to us, is going to vary based on someone's maturity, based on the season of life that they're in or that we're in. Perhaps there's a crisis that's demanding a more concentrated period of time that otherwise wouldn't be required of us. There's work that we have to move around, or kids' schedules and the real busyness of life. We're not all going to be able to do this all day, every day. And the expectation shouldn't be that we're going to. In fact, if you're a disciple, which I would encourage us all to be, not just the disciplers, but the ones who are following the lead of somebody else, make it your focus to be a less needy, a less time needy disciple. Save those opportunities or that concentrated period of time for the times that you think, I really need this person in my life. If it's all the time, that's going to become very, very draining for the person who's seeking to help you. Even though their hearts are in it, their schedules, their endurance is just not going to be there. So time is a very critical aspect of our investment in the life of discipleship. Also, there's study. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but my personal encouragement to you is to study with your disciple or your disciplee towards application, as opposed to just being the things that we're intrigued by in the scriptures. You know, a lot of people, the first thing that they want to study is the end time stuff. They want to go into Revelation and they want to do the sign gifts and all the other controversies and all those kinds of things. Those are fine. They're in the Bible. We should know something about those things. But study towards application. What is the Lord really calling me to do in my day-to-day life? What is he really pressing upon me to grow as a believer? And how can I help that other person find those things as well? So focus your study towards application, not just consumption of information from the Bible. The prayer instruction I thought was really practical. On page 89, he gives an extremely helpful list of ways in which we can teach somebody else how to pray. And he even says, could you take the scriptures and say, this is how you pray through the scriptures on this particular point or something. It's been my experience that most people really look down on their own ability to pray, their own time spent in prayer, and having a voice in their life that says, this is how to do it, or this is how to take your time in prayer, becomes a real encouragement for so many people. And of course, as we've said in previous chapters, love is sort of this prevailing aspect of everything that we do. Remember, we said in John 13 that it was because of our love for one another that the world would know that we're God's disciples. So what does this love look like? Well, he tells us, he says it's an initiating love. It's going after the heart of the person that you're seeking to disciple. It's a persevering kind of love, because even with our friends, there are other people, and people that aren't us, they tax us. I mean, they kind of drag us through the mud from time to time. And so are you willing to persevere, or are you just going to give up the second that this becomes work? Is there a patience to your love? That's what real love looks like, is someone who's willing to take some of the criticisms that come with trying to be a friend or a helper or a mentor, someone that's got to point out some of the difficulties in life or some of the errors that someone's doing. You know, they're gonna hit you back. It's sort of like that animal caught in the corner kind of reaction. Will you be patient with that? Will you understand that that's what your disciple is going to do? Will you continue to press forward in a giving relationship, giving of the time that you don't have? Being a releasing discipler. somebody that says, you know what, our time is played out. It's really time for this person to move on. I'm not going to make this about me and keeping all my little chicks in the nest. I'm gonna kick them out of the nest and help them to fly on their own so that they can be released to disciple other people. All of these are aspects of the evaluation of cost going into this very important endeavor. I'll see you in chapter 10.